going on, peeps? It's Wrath here, hanging out today, playing some Idle Heroes. I want to thank you guys so much for coming out with me today. If you liked the video, don't forget, smash that thumbs up button to show your support, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe as well. Alright guys, we're here today on the official servers because there's new events, and when there's new events, this is where I go. However, I might have to do 2 of these now, because private server no longer follows official, so they have different events, which is not the best idea in my opinion, but whatever. They can do whatever they want to do. We'll see. Before we jump into the changes of whatnot or the new events, let's look at some heroes that have been changed. So very recently there's a patch came out, obviously with the new update. But anyways, 3 heroes got changed that I know of. First up is Walter, the guy we actually just made the day before the changes happened. So what's really been changed on Walter isn't much. It's mainly his last 2 passives here. This used to be on his basic attack. He had a chance to, he would poison people for, put a little dot on him for every round, which did help his PvE damage a little bit, but this is actually a trade up in my opinion. I'm just going to say it. 100% chance to stun the enemy. The effect lasts for 2 rounds. That's on his basic attack. So when he basic attacks somebody, they're guaranteed to become stunned for 2 rounds, which is really powerful. It's better than Field and Bleaker for perma-stun. So when you see Walter in the Aspen now, he's going to be way more deadly because he's going to have a chance to, when he basic attacks you, you can get stunned. His active skill can stun you. Base test, he'll stun lock you to death, pretty much is what I'm trying to say. It's going to be rough to fight him in the Aspen dungeon. Of course, if you have one, you can do the same thing to someone else. You can put your Walter in for the Aspen dungeon and perma-stun the Aspen dungeon and just kind of work your way through it, which is fantastic. In PvP, he's now guaranteed pretty much to stun somebody on his basic attack, and then his active skill again has a chance to stun. So it was a big upgrade in terms of his survivability, because perma-stunning makes you less likely to die, it just does, except for in like guild boss fights, etc. But he still has his 65% reduced damage, so he still gets pretty tanky after he casts his active anyway. This just helps make sure he's going to get to his active. Last passive here got changed as well. When he falls below half health, that damage over time has been bumped to 200% of his attack as damage for 4 rounds. I think it was 150 before. So quite the boost to Walter in my opinion. It might cut down his damage in PvE a little bit. I've tested mine a couple of times, and even after the change, I was hitting about 50, I don't think I hit 60 or 70 million pre-change. Unofficial, that is, with 6-star gear and such. I don't think I was hitting 60 mil versus the broken spaces. After the change, I went back and did it again. I was still hitting around 50 million damage. So his PvE damage isn't like dropped off horrible as PvE damage, because if you think about it, his active skill has a 6-round dot on it, so he's constantly keeping his extra damage on poisoned enemies up anyways. After he casts that first active, he still has a permanent poison buff on them to boost his damage. He just loses a little bit of damage over time on his basic attack, but he gains a perma-stun ability. So I think Walter's actually got quite the buff today, or I guess yesterday. Very, very solid unit. I still like him. I actually like him even more now. It makes me more excited to get this guy to E3 because I feel like he's going to do some seriously nasty damage and be a great node breaker versus single enemy nodes in the Aspen dungeon. You got a single Vesa you can't beat? Throw in Walter. Got a single Sigmund you can't beat? Throw in Walter. He's going to permanently stun the Sigmund. He'll never counterattack. So really solid unit for the Aspen dungeon now, very much so. Tower of Oblivion still good there. Way better in PvP now if you want to use him in PvP as well. And still works pretty solid in PvE. So he's bumped into a really nice hybrid spot. He used to be pretty decently midline. He did good in PvE, and he did okay in PvP, in the Aspen and such, but not super great. This change kind of bolstered that. So now he's much better in the areas he was weak before, but he's still pretty good in PvE areas. So I think it's a pretty good change for Walter. Beria got changed as well. We'll go and take a sneak peek at Beria. Boop. Now, they did remove some wording here and change some wording around. I do believe it's a typo that they forgot to include the fact that you do the 20% extra of the enemy's maximum health if Beria's HP is higher than the enemy's. I think they left that typing out of there. I still believe that's how it's intended to work, because that's how it's worded on their Facebook post. But the big thing that was changed on Beria wasn't really his active skill. It did get a little bit of a change. As you can see, the damage won't exceed 1500% of the hero power. I don't know if they mean this as hero power, or if they're talking about attack, because their wording does sometimes conflict, but the big thing that was changed on Beria was his last passive. Before, after he hit round 4, he gained a crit chance and a crit damage boost that was set, locked in stone, and that's how it lasted, but you had to get to round 4 for it to kick in. Now, instead, he gains armor break, crit, and crit damage every round, which is kind of like Edgar a little bit. Every time Edgar does a basic attack, he boosts his crit damage. So this guy's going to be getting kind of a similar buff. To his actives, or all of his armor break, crit, and crit damage every single round. So by round 4 now, you have that 60% crit chance and 100% crit damage that you got before, but now you're also going to be getting an extra 40% armor break, and then when round 5 kicks in, your crit goes up again, your crit damage goes up again. At round 6, crit and crit damage go up again. So you can actually scale your Beria by round 15 in a PvE fight to probably be not dropping some really nasty crits. One of my buddies in my guild, I think he's still here. Oops, that's not the right button. Guild button. Where is he at? He's right there. He has a 9-star Beria he had, and he had a Marauder pop up. He went and did a little testing for me, and he popped out about 40-something million damage with a 9-star Beria. That's not bad. That's a 9-star Beria with no class-based artifact on, just a regular crit artifact. So it goes to show you the Beria definitely got a change, and I would say it's absolutely a positive change for Beria to where he's actually much more viable in PvE now, and in PvP, at least now he's not going to be weak for the first 4 rounds. Because it used to be in the first 4 rounds of PvP, Beria was very lackluster. Did almost no damage, had nothing coming to the table. Now he's at least going to be building up that crit and crit damage every single round he's alive. I still wouldn't say he's great for PvP personally, but he definitely got a big boost to his PvE side of things. And the last hero that got changed was Amuvor, which I haven't built yet, so yay. At least not on official. I've built him before on private. But he got a little bit of a change as well. His, the big extra damage hit, 21%. I think it was 20%, so it went up by 1%. So, huge damage buff, obviously. But the big thing was they nerfed his damage to priest. His extra damage to priest, I believe, was 180. And it cut it down to 140% damage against priest. So it doesn't hit quite as hard against priests now. It wasn't really a humongous change to Amu. It was kind of subtle. It didn't really change all that much. So I'd say he didn't really lose anything with the I guess quote unquote nerf. A little bit of priest damage, which wasn't a huge deal in my opinion, but it's a thing. So those are the 3 that got changed stat wise. Now let's jump into the event. So we got the new events here. The value packages are going to give you Devil's Ice Cream, which I would not eat. If there's an eyeball in my ice cream, hard pass. Not big on that. But obviously you can tell it's going to be part of the event because you can buy it. It's going to be an ice cream cottage. Obviously you get them from the campaign, your daily rewards. Actually, I didn't even pull my campaign loot yet. Whoops. Whoopsie doodles. And we've got 84 Devil's Ice Cream. Give it to me. Give it to me. So day 1, we're sitting at about 200. I would say you probably won't get more than about 1,500 ice creams over the course of the event as a free-to-play player, which does knock down what you can buy pretty substantially. Things you can get. If you are a spender, you can snag yourself a Magic Stone Sword, which is probably one of the better artifacts for the Aspen Dungeon, in my opinion. It's a fantastic artifact. Obviously, I will not be getting that, because that's very expensive in the ice creams, and I'm not getting that many ice creams. You can snag Amu, which we literally just talked about. Jara, which we've talked about before a little bit. She's another hybrid unit that works decently well in PvE, has nice PvE damage, not amazing, but pretty good, but also works really well in PvP with her crowd control, heavy nuke ability. She's not a bad unit, works pretty well. Down we have King Barton, pretty much strictly a PvP hero. Kind of falls off super late game, but he's pretty solid all the way up until then. And once you get him to 13-star or E3, he works pretty well in the Aspen Dungeon due to the fact he has the AoE counterattack. He is pretty solid there. So there's KB if you get to a hot 2,600 points, which if free to play, your top rewards are probably going to be the Jara skin, the Kamath skin, and everything down there. Personally, I'm just going to buy the 5 Prophet Orbs probably with mine. I don't care for the 2 skins. I'm not using either of those units, so it's not worth it for me. Could I pick up 15 Heroic Scrolls? Yes, but I'd rather pick up 5 Prophet Orbs. It's a better deal in my opinion. So whatever. Whatevs. Probably go Prophet Orbs if you're free to play. Personal recommendation. Super Chips on official, not worth spending your coin on, I would say, so I would leave those alone. To me, the two choices would be between Heroic Summon and Prophet Orb. The reason I lean Prophet Orb is because Heroic Summon events are usually 550 summons, or just about 4 times more than a Prophet Orb event is to complete, which is 120. So, if your Prophet Orb is not 4 times as expensive as your Heroic Scrolls, which they're not, they're 3 times as expensive, you're better off buying the Prophet Orbs because you're getting more completion out of the event going Prophet Orbs than you will get Heroic Scrolls. Just my preference. So I'll be going with the Prophet Orbs this event. And that's pretty much the Ice Cream Cottage in a nutshell. Not all that great of an event. I'm kind of a little let down, especially after the last update was so huge. But also we have Shelter Mission. Shelter Mission. Ice Blink. Because there's so many heroes. I'm not going to go through the normal thing I do and actually go through their 10-star forms, sit there and read everything about them, because it would take so long. I'm just going to do a general rundown. Ice Blink is for PvP. Tower of Oblivion, that's mainly the two places Ice Blink works. He's fallen off a lot recently. He did get a little bit of a buff a while ago, which did help him a little. But he's still not top tier PvP. He's just too slow. He's too easy to counter, in my opinion. On official, like I've said, you can get away with Ice Blink for the early, mid, and even early late game because not everybody's going to be pushing those Dark Light teams. But if he's going to fall off pretty hard when people actually start building really solid CC teams because he's too slow. He's not fast enough to actually be a good unit in PvP as a crowd control unit. So I personally am not a big Ice Blink fan. I've never taken him to E3. I think I've built him to 9 and then fed him. I'm just not a fan. He's not that great. He's pretty mediocre all around right now, even after the buffs. So if you want to build him, you can, but realize you're going to trade him out later in the game because he's not going to be that great. Okay? Aiden, obviously you're going to get the orange gear as well with this, but you got to use 4 ranger types and obviously a 5-star of this. If you need these for heroic miracles, it's worth picking up, which I debated going through, and you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to pick it up. I don't need it necessarily at all, but I'll take it to throw it in my bag, so I got extra for heroic miracles when it comes around, and I'll get the 4-star orange gear, so why not? Aiden got changed recently as well to have a higher crit chance now when the allies die instead of armor break, which makes him more PvP lineup-y, in my opinion. Haven't gotten to test him in PvE yet. I know before the change, he was mainly for Marauders. You could easily hit 500 million damage versus Marauders, stuff like that, which was nice, but I don't know how the changes affected his PvE effectiveness. I don't know. I just know he really sucked versus guild bosses and broken spaces because he was too easy to kill and he didn't drop nearly enough damage for having to sacrifice your entire lineup to fit Aiden into it. He did get a huge damage on death buff as well, which again mainly translates to Tower of Oblivion and PvP rather than guild boss fights, etc. So personally, I'm not in love with Aiden. I've got more than enough copies if I ever wanted to build one anyway. I've got a 7-star and I've got all that. He'll likely just get turned into food, though, for somebody else. Okay, that's the way I see it. Aiden, kind of food unless you're really focused on PvP, in which case he can definitely cheese PvP early game to mid game and even early late game if you've got a really good cheese setup. Rosa. Rosa's kind of in the same boat as Ice Blink. He used to be really good and everybody used him, but as new units have come out, Rosa's kind of fallen off. I've got one at 10-star right now on the private server messing around with him on official, or seasonal. Good lord. I'll get there eventually, I promise. But he's going to be like a damage booster for your team. Gives your team an attack buff with his active skill. Debuffs enemies' armor with his basic attack. So he does give your team a nice little damage boost, but heroes like Cruz, Sigmund, and Heartwatcher are going to give your team a much bigger damage boost than Rosa ever could, which is why you don't see Rosa so much anymore. It's just too easy to get the damage out of other units. You know what? Let's not take the Rosa for now. I don't have another 5-star forest unit just chilling. But the best thing out of the event, arguably right now, is the Cruz copy. Yay! Cruz is amazing. All-around good hero. You can use him in PvE to boost your damage, give your units extra skill casts, because his active skill is going to fill up energy for one of your teammates. Plus, his basic attack has a heal attached to it to heal some of your teammates as well. Really solid all-around unit. When you jump into the PvP side... Sorry, my throat. Professional. When you jump into the PvP side of things, he has a passive that's going to stun the enemy. So, he translates pretty well to PvP also, so because when he falls below half health, you got a good chance to stun the entire enemy team, which is nice. It does give your team an upper hand for a while to come back and relay down your own CC or nuke some people down. Really solid units. We're going to go ahead and pick this guy up because it just makes good sense to do that. We're going to throw in a queen. I don't need the queen. Queen is food for me. Boop. There we go. Snag that Cruce out. Happy about that. The light and dark units, in my opinion, you should only take them if you really need them for heroic miracles, unless you're building a PvP team with Asmo. Asmo does have nice crit. He can do some wicked damage in PvP. I've never tested him out in PvE, so I don't really know what he's about there. But first up, I guess we'll talk about Sleepless. Pretty lackluster unit from all I've heard. Almost nobody builds Sleepless. He's like the one dark unit everybody's like, okay, this guy's food. Dark Arthidol, great for PvP. Amuvor can work in PvP and PvE. When you come to Sleepless, you're just not getting a whole lot from everyone that I've heard build him. I've never built him personally. I'm just going to say it. But I've not heard a lot of good things about Sleepless. He just doesn't have the damage potential, not enough reduced damage to stay alive. He's just not super great in my opinion. However, like I said, if you really need a 5-star dark hero to go into your bag for heroic miracles, it might be worth shelling out those 2 dark copies and 2,000 gems to put him in your bag. Other than that, I'm not going to pick him up. Not worth it. Asmo, kind of the same story. If you're mainly focused in PvE or you're not able to build light heroes and dark heroes, which, I'll be honest, is not easy to do. It's definitely not easy for free to play. I would say it's probably the last thing you'll ever do in the game is build light and dark heroes, because normally your orbs and stuff are going to be spent on regular factions to get a decent team built up, and then you start worrying about light and dark. If you just started orbing light and dark from day one, you're probably not going to have a very good team because you're not going to get a lot of copies of heroes you need. Just going to say it. So, for free to play, light and dark heroes are very, very, very in game for you. It's just the way it is. But like I said, if you need a light hero for your heroic miracle, not a bad idea to pick this guy up and throw him in there. He does work pretty well in PvP. Haven't tested him, like I said, in PvE, so I don't really know. But that's kind of the consensus on Asmo, is he's more of a PvP kind of dude. But there you go. There's the shelter event pretty much covered. I picked out a couple of the dudes since there's not enough to really come back and do a video on. That's going to have to suffice, I guess, for the video on official for the event. Because, like I said, I was really only excited about getting Cruise. I just picked up Ice Blink because I could. And might as well grab that orange gear to fuse up to more 5-star gear. Doesn't hurt things. So that's pretty much all there is about the new event. There's a couple new features here and there. I try to remember most of them. I think I've got most of them. This is the only thing I know that's been changed. You can buy the old avatars for your glory coins now if you missed some. As you can see, I missed a few events in here. And obviously went before I started. So I guess you can kind of see where Wrath started playing the game, because that's when I started completing the events. Yay! But anyways, not a big deal. I think I started playing actually back here. I just couldn't complete them yet. I don't know, whatever, not a big deal. But that's one of the features that was changed. I think that's it for new features. I'm pretty sure. But this is my big worry, guys. Like I've said, when we talked about the heroes that got changed, these aren't changed on private server or seasonal anymore, which right now, private server is undergoing a Prophet Orb event. And I believe, oh crap, what else was it? It's Prophet Orb and Broken Spaces. So their events no longer follow official, which is obviously going to be an issue for them later down the road, especially as things like this happen. This, to me, like just little changes like this, is starting to set private server and official server even further apart than they used to be. And that's not necessarily a good thing for the private server, because the more the official gains on private server, the less appealing private server becomes, the less people are going to play it. That's just the way it works out. And since private servers said they're not worried about doing any new updates, or, things like Seal Land and stuff aren't going to be coming, at least not in the foreseeable future, over time, like as official gets new heroes out and there's a lot more content building up on official side of things, you're going to see the private server die out. That's kind of how things work. When you quit launching new content, you lose. That's how it works. That's how gaming always has been. Nobody goes back and says, you know what, I'm going to play Destiny 1 for the next 6 months because now you've got Destiny 2. You're going to play that. It's the new game. It's the one that still gets the balance changes. It's the one that's still getting new content. That's what you're going to do. So that's kind of my worries about private servers. I think private server in the next 6 months, if they don't really get a handle on actually trying to catch up to the official servers and actually get those updates put on private, you're going to see the private server die off. That's just how it works out. You'll have some people play it that are really new. They're just interested in playing the game over there. But because they're not getting any new features, any new heroes, any new skins, and all they can really do is just rebalance old content, the private server probably won't be around next year. probably won't be a thing. Unless, like I said, if they do hop on board and Meh starts doing some development stuff and things and putting your monthly events in, trying to get the files decrypted once every month or every other month or so and bring all the new updates in, private server does not have a very bright future. Just going to say it. That's my honest opinion. I could be wrong. Could be right. We'll see. If it does go down, I might still play it just for the private server side of things, but I might have to swap up games and play something else for the other, I don't know, 5 days a week. We'll see what happens. But anyways, that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please make sure, smash that thumbs up button to show your support if you haven't already. Don't forget to subscribe as well, and tell your friends about it, because that definitely helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next one.